Good morning, goeiemorgen, Kiora, and to my beautiful Capitanian friends, away. Guys and girls, this morning, North Island getting a bit of a drizzle. I don't know if it's on the whole island, but around me, about zero point 0.9 millimeters so far for the morning. So it's just a slight drizzle. It's not a lot of water falling out there. So hopefully a bit more during the day as we go on. So we'll see. We have promised you guys that Vanita will join us this morning. We're having a bit of a tiny difficulty. She was on, but we couldn't get sound. So I want her to talk to you, not to just see you. So hang in there. We are trying to get her back on there. I was yesterday taken out because of the favorite shirt that I presumably was wearing, but this is a newish shirt, so I hope you guys haven't seen this before. But down here, all the clothing shops are still in lockdown, so there's no chance for me to go out and go and buy a new shirt. So if somebody just can give me a bit of a heads up if you can hear me well on the other side, I just want to find that out as well, if it's possible. So it looks like I do have sound. Yes, I can hear myself on the delay there. All right. Presumably, in South Africa, the president has said something, or people were still waiting for him to say something. I don't know. I haven't seen anything that happened there. So, if anybody can give me some feedback from that side, I'm not really a big fan of that government, so I don't sit and listen the whole day to what they are trying to tell us. Yep. The program that we're currently using is called BeLive.tv. It's a paid-for program. We had a bit of problems this morning. With the sound and with even getting the program to open. So I don't know if they've got technical problems on the other side. We'll just see. Perhaps Vanita can join us a bit later. Last night, our immigration minister had a few announcements made. I just read some of the headlines. But for me, I'm not an immigration advisor. I'm a financial advisor, so I deal with people's finances. And I see South Africa is currently at level 5. Is it 511,000 and 21,000? And yep, okay, well, let's not go there. So, yep, I've heard that the minister had a few things to say last night, but I didn't listen to the speech or to the webcast. So that is why Vanita is our immigration advisor, and she will give us some feedback on that. So, yep, let's wait for probably we can get her back on. I don't know. I'm not quite sure we can this morning. So, all right. On Monday, actually, it's Monday, yes. Is it Monday or Monday? We've got a public holiday. It's called Anzac Day. It's for Australia, New Zealand, and their fights that they did abroad, especially came about. The fight that they had in Turkey was basically the last big fight they had. Sadly, they haven't won any of the big fights abroad. They fought against the Boers in the Boer War. And they were in the First World War and they were in the Second World War. But the last big fight, the one that really killed a lot of New Zealanders, was against Turkey. They were held in that area and that enclave, and they were actually killed by the heaps, to call it that. There's no other real way to say this. And that is why every year they've got Anzac Day. Now, normally Anzac Day goes around with a lot of marches all over New Zealand and the Prime Minister getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, giving us a good speech on how it works and so on. But this Anzac Day, we're still in lockdown. So no big marches, no groups of people getting together. So they've got this thing, I think it's tomorrow morning. They call it Stand at Dawn. And that's at 6 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock, all the veterans in New Zealand are going to stand at their gates in their driveways, and they are going to, as they call it, stand at dawn. So 6 o'clock, somebody standing in the driveway, don't be scared. Don't be afraid. It's not somebody who's going to rob you. I see we've got Vanita back. Let's see if we can get Vanita in the stream now. Okay. Vanita, morning. I hope we've got some.
I hope so, because can you hear me?
See if we can hear you on the delay, because I cannot hear you this side. So we'll just
Damn,
wait for
and you
the
know
delay
what?
to come up, so then we can see if we can hear you that side. Because for myself, I cannot hear you directly. Let's hope we've got.
Okay.
The delay is a bit behind, so.
Right.
All right. Let's see, the delay is coming to. Yeah. We've got lift off. Let's go. We've got you on the delay. We can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I'm so glad that you
by the way. But good morning to you. So I'm sadly I cannot hear what you're saying, so I cannot give a lot of commentary this morning. But I'll let you talk.
Okay. Look, it's called, guys or listeners, thank you for joining us. Jan, sorry you can't hear me. There's been a lot going on. Yesterday, the Minister of Immigration presented to Palmerston North, but that's the region he's responsible for. So there were about 200 odd people on that Zoom call, and he did not want to talk about immigration, but was eventually forced to talk about immigration. So there were a few questions that were actually asked, and these are the questions that have been asked by a lot of people wanting to know what happens to my status. There's just so many questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through sort of some of the questions and, just relay what was actually being said and how or what immigration is actually doing about it. So in the next few days, we are possibly going to hear from Immigration New Zealand with regards to new policies that are going to be announced. With regards to certain situations where people have been either made redundant, people have lost their jobs and so on. But I'll talk about what was discussed. Now, bear in mind that because there's been a lack of information from Immigration New Zealand, your practitioners don't have the answers. And I know you guys are stressed out, but there's nothing we can do about the situation. So looking at it, let's see the first sort of questions that have come through. So residents, I know a lot of people have been asking about residents, what's happening with residents, that are in the queue. Prior to the lockdown, and probably, I think it was in January, immigration announced priority of residence applications, where we had priority queues and we had the non-priority queues. The good news is that the minister has actually said now what they're actually doing is they're actually going to be looking at both queues. So they're going to sort of keep those queues moving. So hopefully we'll get some traction on that. Bear in mind that immigration at the moment have zero capacity and are not moving toward, they're not processing anything as such. And when they move to level 3, they're possibly also going to be at probably zero capacity, because these guys cannot work from home due to sensitivity of the information and the nature of their jobs and the nature of the information that they deal with. So just with regards to that, know that that's what's happening. There was a question about the parent category, because the first draw was supposed to be in May, and obviously that's not happening. Look, right now, the minister has actually said that that is the last, absolutely last priority that they're looking at. So there is no news on that, and that's not something on their books right now. There was a question around that where we have people sponsoring their parents and they've lost their jobs, so they don't meet the remuneration criteria. The minister has said that they will not move on the remuneration criteria on that. Reading through my notes, so we have a question where people have said that they're outside of New Zealand, and a lot of people are in the situation. They have visas, for instance, like work visas, and they're due to start. And the duration of first entry is 3 months, pretty much from the date the visa is issued. They want to know what are their options, because those visas are starting to expire or will be expiring very soon, and the lockdown's still carrying on, or the borders are closed. So there is no answer or firm answer on that. Immigration have said, or the minister has said, that they will be looking at that and possibly pushing those dates out, but there are no firm answers on that. So what's currently going to happen is those dates are going to expire and you won't be able to come through to New Zealand. They are aware that people have sold up, packed up their lives, resigned from their jobs and so on. But there's nothing that can be done, or there's no answers to that right now. One of the things I think that's quite important that the minister mentioned is the labour market tests. Now that is going to become extremely important, and they're going to be very, very strict on that. One note was that if you have a migrant in a job and that job has been made redundant, just remember those migrants are there to fill those roles for New Zealanders. So if they've been made redundant, they are on temporary visas. My apologies. They are on temporary visas. So bear in mind. Okay. Somebody said that they lost us. Can you hear me? Yeah. Sorry, I can see a Facebook user saying that they lost me again.
Vanita, sorry.
Yes.
If you are finished and you want me to say something or so, because I cannot hear, I'm on a delayed time. I think just give me a thumbs up or something.
Okay.
Because I got a question down here from somebody prior last night.
Right. I'm carrying on. Okay. So sorry, that was just for me saying that I'm rolling. There's a user that said that they couldn't hear me.
No,
okay, I hope
we can hear Vanita.
Okay.
They got you back there. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay. So just bear in mind that the visas for migrant workers are temporary, used to fill in the roles that New Zealanders cannot fill. So if you've lost your role, we're actually estimating that there's going to be about 200,000 odd jobs that will be lost. So the labour market testing is going to be quite strict in the sense that possibly the government's going to be pushing New Zealanders first. Now, I want to make a statement. So we've been spending a lot of time on webinars and so on because we've been asked so many questions from employers, from people like yourself saying, what if I lose my job? What if I'm made redundant and so on? Now, just bear in mind, we are not employment lawyers, but this is some information that I got from a webinar that I attended from an employment lawyer. So if you're on a work visa, and I know some people are sort of going, we're on work visas, the employers are going to get rid of us because we're on work visas and they're going to keep the New Zealanders. That is not the case, okay? Employment law comes into effect here. So if you lose your job because your employer has said that you are on a work visa, that's effectively discrimination because they're discriminating against work visa holders. They cannot do that according to employment law. So you can actually take them to the Employment Relations Authority based on that. So bear in mind that employers cannot do this. So I think you need to be aware that you have rights just like the New Zealanders employed in those roles. So if employers are going through a redundancy restructure process, they need to go through that properly, and that is why the government's actually invested a lot in business consultancy for these employers to find out exactly how they can go about it. Also bear in mind that if you have received the wage subsidy for 12 weeks, employers are not allowed to make you redundant within those 12 weeks. And that is quite important. So bear that in mind, okay? So there's been a lot of concerns for migrant workers around that, so bear that in mind. So just bear in mind that all offshore offices are closed currently, so processing is very limited with Immigration New Zealand, but they are starting to process applications and trying to clear out the backlog, but there will be quite a severe or significant backlog to work through. Sorry, I'm looking at my questions that were asked. So the labour market tests again, immigration or the minister has said that that's going to be looking very different for the next few months and even years. And that was from his own mouth. So that means that they are looking at long term and the way they're going to be employing migrants long term. So be very mindful that if you are looking for jobs and so on, that these are going to be sort of very skilled, very jobs that New Zealanders cannot readily fill. One other thing is the long-term skills shortage list usually changes or is updated around February of every year. Now, that hasn't happened February of this year. And with regards to all the unemployment that's going on, you will probably see some significant changes around the long-term skills shortage list. One other thing is that Immigration New Zealand are carrying on with the policies that they were implementing with regards to employers receiving accreditation to employ migrants. And they said to us they're still moving ahead with that. Right. Some other questions. Thank you for joining us after listening to your president's statements. For those that are joining us now. Right, I think I've addressed redundancy. So one of the other questions was that we have visitors from South Africa that are onshore where money is running out and there's no there's no benefit, or there's no benefits given to them, and so on. So the expectation from the minister and from the government is that you are supposed to have some sufficient funds to support you and also to pay for your
I've
return.
got a question if you've got time for me.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Vanita, the question was asked for me yesterday. Client's husband worked as a specific job. The same company has made that specific position redundant. So he's been made redundant on his job specifically, but he's been downgraded in the same company. So he's going to stay with the same company, but in a different position. At least point one, he's got work still. A few positives regarding this. He's got work. He's got a lesser salary, but not that much less. It's only his position. Does he need to reapply to immigration now to give him a new visa or whatever else? I'm sorry if you have handled this in prior.
No, that's okay.
Totally on the delayed one here.
It's all good. Didn't actually address that. That is actually a really good question. So right now, immigration have actually put in a variation of conditions for people that have been made redundant and they're staying with the same employer. So yes, he does need to actually apply to Immigration New Zealand to get his visa label altered to say he's in a different role. So that's actually more of a restructure rather than redundancy. The company's just restructured and put him to another position. So I would say to that person, please go ahead to immigration, apply for a variation of conditions on your visa to change your job title because you're staying with the same employer. And yes, immigration can, or sorry, not immigration, employers can actually reduce your salary. However, it has to be mutually agreed and it has to be in writing as well. So you'll get a variation to your employment agreement. Okay, so that can happen. Okay. Thanks, Jan.
All right. I don't know if you see, there's a few other questions here. One coming from Elise Kutsia asking if other governments still working on residency applications during this time?
Yes, I spoke about that earlier. Yes, they are still working, but probably not right at this time because it's zero processing at this time. So they did say that initially their queues were prioritized. Now they're going to work on priority one, which they're assuming is a smaller queue, and they're going to be working on the other priority queues for residents as well. So once they get back, they will be processing.
All right. If we go down to level 3 now, are you going back to your offices?
No, if we can work from home, just remember we can work from home. So it's only those key or essential service workers that can go back to the office. We are still working from home. A lot of immigration advisors are still working from home and available through Zoom or WhatsApp or Skype for those calling. So we've not stopped working. We're just working remotely.
I've got to make this remark. This is the first time ever we've done on a live broadcast. We've done sign language. So.
And I don't know sign language.
What can you do? Let's see if there's any other questions that we missed. Johnny asking, what about the people that have been waiting for residency for 12 months or more? I doubt if there's any big things that's going to change there.
I've answered that one. So go, next one.
Okay. I probably dealt with that previously. Sorry, I'm still in the delayed part. I think level 3 brings its own challenges to all of us. And I think the biggest thing in level 3 is not to lose out. That is my thoughts here.
Yeah. Look, I mean, hopefully by May we'll all be moving to level 2 and going back to work and sort of resuming normal activities and so on. However, immigration is going to take some time to get the wheels rolling again. So just bear in mind that things are going to take some time to get through. As I said, policy is going to be announced in the next few days, hopefully it's Friday today. So hopefully next week, immigration is going to come back with some policy so we can deal with our clients and how we're going to handle the changing situations that they've had with their work.
I'm sorry that I could not comment on any of that was said because I couldn't hear anything. So I'll listen to you later. So
that's okay.
But yeah, I do believe that the biggest and the easiest thing for us is to lose hope. And I've seen so many people, and really, I don't know, probably you as well, but I've been so many people put out their hands to me and said, husband is still there or wife is still there, and should they go back?
Yeah.
It's easy to say let's go back, and there's no flights as well, right?
Okay. So just with this is quite important. So the minister, so there was a question asked about lower skilled, and you know how you can't bring your wife over or your partner over on that when you're sort of seen as lower skilled. Now the minister said that they are continuing to work on that to get rid of those skill bans, and that is something that we've been waiting to see for a few months so that we can have partners joining the rest of the family. And they said that they are still working on that. The work hasn't stopped, and they continue to work on that. Okay, so in some regard, they are going to get rid of ANSCOs, but I would believe that it is for the work visa holders for ANSCOs. So that's a positive for a lot of people. I can see some questions being asked here, which I will try to answer. And a user says, sorry, I can only see you as Facebook user. So it says, if I may ask, what about people that have been waiting for residency for 12 months? I've actually answered that already.
I don't know. Are you seeing the questions that pop up on the side?
Some of it, yeah.
Okay. So you've handled all these questions.
No.
Not all. Answer one or two if you can.
So there's somebody that says, can I get a variation of conditions if I've been made redundant and then moved to a company? Absolutely. The government has actually said and prioritized this, that if you have been made redundant and you've got a new opportunity, please apply for a new work visa or variation depending on what's changed on that. Okay. Another question says, if my son has a visitor visa and it's linked to his father's talent visa, can he change it to a study, or do we need to reapply for a study visa? So I'm presuming that your son is over the age of 18. That is a very different situation. If he changes it to a study visa, meaning that he wants to study tertiary, then that is a foreign fee paying student. But I think that is something that I'm just going to be guessing on that one. Okay. I think you need to probably talk to somebody with regards to your options available. Let's see here. I'm an essential skills work visa and have a skilled resident visa application in already. Look, immigration will process that. They said that they are going to process that in time. Okay. So I hope I've answered some of your questions, or the minister's answered some of your questions with regards to what's happening. I mean, look, they've given us some positive stuff with regards to changes, but he can't really specify anything until that's in policy, okay? And they're working through that. Jan, please ask me more questions.
All right. We've got about, I think, 3 minutes left over. Is there anything else you want to tell the people?
I think that's about it. Look, guys, I will try and post some of the answers to some of the questions in here. And if anything that I missed out that the minister has addressed yesterday, okay? But that's pretty much it. Thanks, Jan.
All right. I'm going to wrap up. Vanita, thank you very much. Point one. Sorry, I could not hear anything that you said. I'll go and watch this a bit later when I get the chance. But thanks again, and thanks for always being there for us and dealing with all our questions that we do have. All right, I'm going to take you out of the feed now. Thank you. Guys and girls, that was Vanita all the way from Auckland. Lovely morning here down on the North Island. It probably will rain a bit later if it all looks well to me, if I look out of the window. And yep, no orcas this morning, sadly, about that. But on the other side, we're going into weekend, and as I said, we had this Anzac Day thing. So if you see somebody standing on their driveway early, I think it's early tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, don't feel threatened. They're not trying to break in. They're just having their minute of silence in the driveways. All right, that's me all the way from Tauranga, Welcome Bay. My name is Jan Viljoen. I'm a financial advisor, and we had Vanita Hurbuns, our immigration advisor, on the show this morning. Thank you, guys and girls. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.